Thanks for staying. I'm certainly excited about what I just now saw with those lenses, and I hope one day we get to integrate that into some of the solutions we're working on. So behind me is a maybe more conventional piece of equipment, a drilling rig built here in Singapore, and actually many of these rigs operating in the world were built here in Singapore. Now, the oil and gas sector may not be as sexy as when I started 20 years ago. And of course, there are valid concerns about climate change. Some people compare us with the tobacco industry, arms dealers, crypto miners. But I'm very proud to be in this industry, and I'll explain why. My name is Joachim van der Meulen. I work for DROPS, which stands for Dropped Object Prevention Scheme. And this relates to industrial safety. So after a few very serious incidents in our industry, our industry has become really good at kind of eliminating hazards and reducing incidents. So much so that I would argue that our industry is really very safe, actually much safer than if you were to have a job in a construction industry here, for example. So many initiatives has led to a much safer workplace. So let's zoom into specifically what we're looking at here. So these are two pictures of a drilling rig. On the left is the drill floor, and on the right is a derrick. So oil and gas lies very deep in the ground, and you need to drill for it with many sections of pipe. And you can imagine that takes an enormous amount of power. So if you have one of those hand drills, well, this will be thousands of times more power than you have with a hand drill like that. So combine that with an offshore environment where there's a lot of corrosion due to seawater. This causes a lot of issues. At the same time, well, on this picture, the drill floor is mostly empty, but normally actually quite a lot of people working there. The risk of dropped objects is quite serious. So, and a dropped object, if generates enough momentum, can have really life-changing impact. So, interesting, the industry is, how a drilling rig works is very similar across all the rigs working in the world, and there are thousands. So actually it's a great opportunity if we have a mistake, if we fail at some point, to actually learn from others. And that's exactly what my role is. Getting those learnings from different companies and making sure that that is not repeated with other companies. So we provide training materials to companies, and that sometimes is PowerPoint, a little bit boring. So we started looking at different technologies to kind of make the training a bit more attractive, more lasting. And so we started with e-learning initially, and then we wanted the e-learning to be more interactive, so we did kind of stories with animations. And at some point, I was going back and forth to this studio to kind of do this, and I thought, hey, can we put these 3D models in a VR device, and can we just meet remotely, so I don't have to keep on coming back to Kuala Lumpur to make these videos? Now, the vendor at that time said, no, this is impossible. And of course, I don't accept that, impossible. That's, if I think of something, usually 10 other people have already thought about it and made a solution, and true enough. And that's when I met Saravana, and he indeed put the 3D model on the VR device, and we had that up and running within a week. And I imagine the future, just like Mark Zuckerberg, everyone would be having these devices by now. Things didn't work quite as fast, but we kept at it, and we have a nice training platform now, which many companies are involved in, and all sharing their knowledge and kind of use that as part of their training. So we did the first round in 2022, and now more and more companies are using it and kind of bringing in their own ideas. And yeah, we expand the content from there. So the main partner was initially Shell, but now we work with many other companies. Access is one of those companies, and Ricardo will speak next about how they implemented this with their services in the industry. There we go.
Okay, hello everyone. Pleasure to be here. So continuing what Joe mentioned about how technology can actually improve the safety statistics on board offshore drilling rig, we are actually working and applying that. So just to introduce briefly, so our company Access Group is specialized in inspection on offshore installations. So we are going towards these rigs with our personnel and identifying potential hazards and then advising our clients on how to make it safer. So one of the expertise that we have is with drops, as Joe mentioned, is the dropped object prevention scheme on how to identify this potential dropped object. So we can go on site, we can actually do a lot of things and with procedures and everything, but in the end, the physical hazard on site is where we try to minimize. So the traditional training methods that we've been applying in the industry before that solution came was, as Joe mentioned, maybe a little bit boring with classroom trainings, some online trainings, and then we have maybe the best training method, I think, of any industry, which is on-the-job training. So actually going there and having another inspector or even potentially the crew that are on these rigs to actually go and experience the actual hazard by looking and seeing, okay, this is a potential hazard. Can you understand that this corrosion can lead to a potential death? That's the ideal world of a training method. However, can we actually put all of these trainees on board these rigs? That's not so easy. We have to go through extensive training even to go on board. So then we have to actually have challenges of potentially combining the theory of how to inspect, how to identify potential hazard, when the reality of actually practical work. And that's when the Drops Metaverse became part of our ideas on how to improve that, to make the trainings more successful. How many of us here have gone online and then just checked the box of I read and I accept the terms without ever reading those terms? I think we are all guilty of that. And then the purpose of actually bringing these safety trainings to the real or semi-real scenario that the Metaverse brings is that these will retain, the information will be retained by the trainees. So it will be something close to their hearts. A lot of the knowledge actually is retained when it's emotionally attached. When it's just PowerPoints, it's at least 70% of the information is gone within a few hours. So then by embracing that experience, then the information will be retained. The semi-practical information will be in the minds of the people. And it's quite cheap. We don't need to expend a lot of money just with certifications to go offshore on the job training. It's also possible to be done remotely by a lot of people in different parts of the world. The pandemic, as we know, just halted us of actually traveling, and that became a de facto solution to replace the on-the-job training. And for us, as we are doing the inspections and training for our clients and even internally, that actually opened a new door. So this is a very good example of taking the traditional industry, as the offshore oil and gas can be, but also applying new technologies to become new business model as well. So then we become more experts in providing training to our clients and teaching them on how to identify themselves. Young generation, that's very important for us as well, that we are seen as a company that it's ahead of the curve in terms of implementation of new technologies. The offshore mentality of being quite dinosaurs has to stay behind. We are quite new to the industry with these new technologies, and we have some catching up to do. So that will attract new talent. As Joe mentioned, the reputation of oil and gas can maybe be improved, but if we do things smarter in more efficient ways, we can actually improve that. Now talking about challenges. There are challenges in the real world. This is all amazing and great when we're talking about the presentations and sales speech, but we had some real life challenges. We still do at some point. So implementing that can have some resistance. A lot of the management from our clients are not so familiar with VR in general. So first challenge is that a lot of them don't realize how cheaper hardware can be. We probably here in this room are very used of trying out, but you'll be surprised of how much of the decision makers from the big companies, the oil companies, or even the drilling companies have not really experienced. So there is a resistance to change compared to the traditional methods. The motion sickness is something, the elephant in the room as well. Some people are actually prone to that, especially when the first generation came. So the percentage of people experience motion sickness were quite high. We see that with the new development that's coming to the market with affordable prices, that's reduced. I think as well, also there is a natural familiarization of our personnel and the younger generation, and this eventually will be reduced, but it's important that we address that. The software still has challenges. Not all systems that we have today in the metaverse are completely integrated with the client system. So they have their own software to actually manage the competence, the training matrix. We have our own as an inspection and training company. And then we have the metaverse from Meta. So all of these systems, they need to speak to each other. Then the challenge is who will pay for the cost, who will actually take the first step, and what happens when these are updated and needs to be reviewed. So these are challenges that we face in the real world. We try to overcome, and sometimes we have to end up with some compromise. But so far, that's where we're heading towards improving the safety training by using new technologies. OK, so that's me. Thanks for having me. And I think now we have my colleague as well to join me. Thank you.
Thanks, Ricardo. So, good afternoon, everyone. Before I start, let me introduce myself. Myself, Sarona, associated with WinSinfo for more than 10 years. My journey into the world of VR AR began in 2016. Now I have the privilege of leading VR AR initiatives along with a wonderful team to bring these kind of innovations forward. So before we get to know about WinSinfo, what does, so let's take a step back to understand our involvement in this groundbreaking project, Drops Metaverse. My previous speakers, Joe and Ricardo, have covered most key points, explaining what the project is about, where the idea is originated, how it got started, and some of the key challenges we faced during the course of development. Being a technical partner, I would like to share some of the core technical aspects and how they bring significant value to the project. The first one we call it here is collaborative training methodology. This concept of collaborative training allows trainees to see and interact with each other in a realistic 3D industrial environments. With this multiplayer voice chat system, the trainees can collaborate and learn together along with their guides or instructors, just as they do in real time, but within the immersive space of VR. This enables the trainees to practice these scenarios in a more efficient way than in the traditional method. The second one is implementation of heavy 3D rig models. We have integrated, just like Joe shown in the first slide, these kind of heavy rig 3D models into the application. But loading these kind of applications was a significant challenge in the early days with the devices like Oculus Go. However, due to the advancements in device capabilities of Meta and 3D optimization techniques, we can now seamlessly integrate these kind of heavy models into the application, thus creating an environment which closely mirrors the reality. These models often consist of elements such as machines, tools, to give more realistic as much as possible. And the final one is cross-platform support. So this is specific for the, so one of the challenge which Ricardo said, like the generation 1 who are all having the kind of a motion sickness with VR. So we have to make sure that our application is accessible across multiple platforms. So myself and Joe has decided to generate So why can't we give additional support with Windows and Mac systems so that they can also contribute and attend the training sessions. So these are the 3 key features of the project, but there are a few other implementations as well, like user authentication with AWS, avatar systems, and picking up the tools in the training scenarios, kind of. In addition to this, I would like to share a few other industry cases which Winsinfo is working on. The first one is fire and safety drills training. This training is more or less similar to whatever the training we are dealing with the oil and gas industry, but which allows the individuals to practice emergency procedures in a controlled environment. So which also enhances their preparedness for real-time situations. The second one is for the industry of architects and interior design industry. This helps architects and designers to choose, to visualize their projects in a virtual environment and make their design choices and making adjustments even before they start their real work. The last one is the transformation of online shopping by allowing consumers to visualize their products in their own area. Imagine being able to see how a piece of furniture would look like in your living room or workplace, even before making a purchase. So this is the idea behind that one. So we believe this is the concept of futuristic online shopping. Finally, I would like to share a few insights about Winsinfo. We have been in this software industry for more than 25 years and have expertise teams in e-commerce, cloud, AI, and blockchain services in addition to XR. Specifically with XR services, we are having significant experience of 8+ years. But what makes us different from other XR service providers in the industry is that we bring a wealth of knowledge and stability to the products with our wide range of services like cloud and AI solutions. Even in Drops Metaverse as well, we have implemented the cloud-based user authentication and asset management systems. So finally, I request all of you to think how these kind of innovative solutions can align with your future goals. So that's it from my side. Thank you all for your attention. Thank you.